Think you're on the right spiritual path? You might want to hit pause. Some lesser-known spiritual practices can have serious consequences you've never imagined. From energy field disruptions to psychological trauma, we're about to uncover the hidden dangers lurking in the spiritual underground. These aren't your typical meditation mishaps or manifestation missteps. We're talking about practices that could derail your spiritual journey and impact your mental and physical health in ways you never saw coming. Ready to discover which obscure spiritual habits you might need to steer clear of? Spirituality isn't always about peace and light. Sometimes it can lead us down dark and dangerous paths. Dr. Miguel Farias, a leading researcher in the psychology of belief at Coventry University, warns that certain spiritual practices can have unforeseen negative consequences. His studies have shown that some esoteric techniques can trigger psychological distress and even physical harm. The allure of quick spiritual advancement or extraordinary experiences can sometimes blind practitioners to the potential risks involved. Let's dive into 10 lesser-known spiritual practices that might be doing more harm than good. 1. Breatharian pursuits. The belief that one can live without food and only on spiritual energy is an extreme practice that can have life-threatening consequences. This isn't just about fasting. Practitioners claim they can survive on air and sunlight alone. The practice is rooted in the belief that humans can transcend physical needs and sustain themselves purely on prana or life force energy. Dr. Harriet Hall, a former Air Force flight surgeon, has documented cases where breatharian attempts have led to severe malnutrition and even death. The practice is based on pseudoscientific claims about the body's ability to convert light into nutrients, which contradicts basic biology. Proponents often cite spiritual texts or mystical experiences as evidence, but these claims have no scientific basis. The real danger lies in the gradual weakening of the body, which can be masked by initial feelings of euphoria due to ketosis. By the time practitioners realize the harm, it might be too late. The body begins to break down its own tissues for energy, leading to organ failure and potentially fatal complications. Despite numerous debunkings and documented deaths, breatharianism continues to attract followers seeking spiritual transcendence. 2. Quantum jumping. Quantum jumping, a practice that claims to allow people to leap into parallel universes and alter their reality, might sound like harmless fun. However, it can lead to a dangerous disconnect from reality. Proponents argue that by visualizing and tuning into alternate versions of themselves, they can bring about dramatic life changes or acquire new skills and knowledge. Psychologist Dr. Stephen Diamond warns that this practice can trigger dissociative episodes in vulnerable individuals. People might become so fixated on alternative realities that they neglect their current life circumstances, leading to real-world consequences like job loss or relationship breakdown. The practice can blur the lines between imagination and reality, potentially exacerbating existing mental health issues. Moreover, the disappointment of failed jumps can lead to depression and a sense of powerlessness in one's actual life. When promised dramatic changes don't materialize, practitioners may feel they've failed or that they're stuck in an inferior reality. This can create a cycle of escapism and disillusionment, hindering genuine personal growth and problem-solving skills. 3. Spirit attachment removal. Some spiritual practitioners claim they can remove attached spirits or entities from a person's energy field. While it might seem benign, this practice can have serious psychological repercussions. Believers in spirit attachment often attribute negative emotions, behaviors, or life circumstances to the influence of disembodied entities. Dr. Nick Canis, a professor of psychiatry at the University of California, points out that belief in spirit attachment can exacerbate symptoms in people with mental health conditions. It can lead to a form of spiritual hypochondria, where individuals attribute every negative emotion or experience to an attached entity. This mindset can prevent people from addressing underlying psychological issues or taking responsibility for their actions and emotions. This practice can delay seeking proper medical or psychological help, allowing underlying conditions to worsen. Instead of developing healthy coping mechanisms or addressing real-life problems, individuals may become dependent on repeated removal sessions. In some cases, the belief in spirit attachment can even trigger or worsen symptoms of anxiety, depression, or paranoia. 4. Extreme solar gazing. Extreme solar gazing. Solar gazing, the practice of staring directly at the sun, is promoted by some spiritual groups as a way to absorb energy and enhance spiritual abilities. However, ophthalmologists universally condemn this practice as extremely dangerous. Proponents claim benefits ranging from increased psychic abilities to reduced need for food, none of which are scientifically supported. Dr. Russell Van Gelder, director of the University of Washington Medicine Eye Institute, warns that even short periods of solar gazing can cause irreversible retinal damage. The practice can lead to solar retinopathy, resulting in permanent vision loss. The retina, which contains the light-sensitive cells necessary for vision, can be burned by the intense solar radiation, leading to blind spots or complete blindness. The spiritual benefits claimed by proponents are not supported by scientific evidence, making the risks entirely unjustifiable. The human eye has not evolved to look directly at the sun, and no amount of spiritual belief can change this biological fact. Despite warnings from medical professionals, some spiritual groups continue to promote this practice, often downplaying or denying the risks involved. 5. Tantric celibacy. While Tantra is often associated with sacred sexuality, some extreme tantric practices advocate for complete celibacy, including abstention from all sexual thoughts. This practice, when taken to extremes, can lead to psychological distress and sexual dysfunction. Proponents argue that sexual energy can be transmuted into spiritual energy, leading to higher states of consciousness. Sex therapist Dr. Marty Klein notes that extreme sexual repression can lead to anxiety, depression, and even obsessive-compulsive behaviors. The practice can create an unhealthy relationship with one's own body and sexuality, leading to long-term intimacy issues. By demonizing natural sexual thoughts and feelings, practitioners may develop deep-seated guilt and shame around their sexuality. Moreover, the suppression of sexual desires doesn't make them disappear. Instead, it can lead to a preoccupation with sex, paradoxically increasing sexual thoughts and frustrations. This can create a cycle of guilt and repression that negatively impacts overall mental health and well-being. In some cases, extreme tantric celibacy can also lead to physical issues, such as pelvic pain or sexual dysfunction, when practitioners eventually attempt to resume sexual activity. 6th, holotropic breathwork. Holotropic breathwork, a practice involving controlled hyperventilation, is promoted as a way to achieve altered states of consciousness. Practitioners claim it can lead to spiritual insights, emotional healing, and even past life memories. However, it comes with significant risks that are often downplayed by its proponents. Dr. James Lake, a board-certified psychiatrist, warns that this technique can lead to respiratory alkalosis, which can cause tetany, seizures, and even loss of consciousness. The rapid breathing alters the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood, potentially leading to dangerous physiological changes. For individuals with a history of cardiovascular issues or mental health conditions, the practice can be particularly dangerous. The altered states achieved through this practice can also trigger latent psychological issues or traumatic memories without proper support to process them. While proponents argue that this surfacing of repressed material is therapeutic, it can be overwhelming and destabilizing without proper psychological support. Some practitioners have reported experiencing prolonged dissociation, anxiety, or depression following holotropic breathwork sessions. 7. Pranic Fasting. Pranic fasting, the practice of attempting to live on prana, life force alone, is a dangerous extension of breatharianism. Practitioners claim they can absorb nutrients directly from the air and sunlight, sustaining themselves without food or water. This practice is based on esoteric beliefs about the body's ability to transmute energy into physical sustenance. Nutritionist Dr. Rhiannon Lambert emphasizes that there's no scientific basis for these claims. Extended periods without food can lead to severe malnutrition, organ failure, and death. The initial euphoria experienced by practitioners is actually a dangerous sign of the body entering starvation mode. As the body begins to break down its own tissues for energy, It releases endorphins, which can create a false sense of well-being. The dangers of pranic fasting are compounded by the spiritual beliefs surrounding it. Practitioners may interpret the physical symptoms of starvation, such as lightheadedness or visions, as signs of spiritual advancement, encouraging them to continue the harmful practice. In several documented cases, individuals have died while attempting extended pranic fasts, highlighting the life-threatening nature of this practice. 8. Psychic surgery. Psychic surgery, a practice where practitioners claim to remove diseased tissue with their bare hands, is a dangerous form of medical quackery. It's often marketed as a spiritual healing technique, particularly in some parts of South America and the Philippines. Practitioners claim to be able to access the spiritual realm to perform surgeries without instruments or incisions. Dr. Edzard Ernst, a leading researcher in complementary and alternative medicine, has extensively studied this practice. He concludes that it's nothing more than sleight of hand, often using animal parts to simulate removed tumors. The real danger is that it can deter people from seeking legitimate medical treatment for serious conditions. Patients may delay or forego necessary medical interventions, believing they've been cured through psychic means. The practice preys on desperate individuals seeking miraculous cures, often charging significant sums for these fake procedures. Beyond the financial exploitation, psychic surgery can lead to worsened health outcomes as underlying conditions go untreated. In some cases, the unsanitary conditions in which these surgeries are performed can lead to infections or other complications. 9. Extreme firewalking. While traditional firewalking is done on cooled embers, some extreme spiritual groups promote walking on hot coals as a test of faith or spiritual power. This practice is often framed as a way to overcome fears, prove one's spiritual strength, or achieve a transcendent state. However, when not properly controlled, it can result in severe burns and long-term nerve damage. Dr. Len Horowitz, a pulmonary specialist at Lenox Hill Hospital, warns that even brief contact with extremely hot surfaces can cause third-degree burns. The spiritual benefits claimed by proponents don't outweigh the very real risk of permanent injury. While it's true that properly prepared firewalks can be done safely due to the physics of heat transfer and the insulating effect of ash, extreme versions that use hotter coals or longer exposure times are extremely dangerous. The psychological impact of firewalking can also be problematic. Participants who successfully complete a firewalk may develop a false sense of invulnerability, leading them to take unnecessary risks in other areas of life. Conversely, those who are injured may experience significant psychological trauma, feeling they've failed a spiritual test or let down their community. 10. Cambo Cleansing rituals. Cambo, a ritual that involves applying the toxic secretions of the giant monkey frog to burnt skin, is promoted as a powerful spiritual cleanse. Originating from Amazonian tribes, this practice has gained popularity in New Age and alternative healing circles. Proponents claim it can purify the body and spirit, cure diseases, and increase strength and stamina. Toxicologist Dr. David Jurlink warns that Cambo can cause severe vomiting, diarrhea, and swelling of the face and throat. In extreme cases, it can lead to seizures and death. The purging effect, touted as cleansing, is actually a sign of the body desperately trying to expel a poison. The peptides in Cambo secretion can cause a range of physiological effects, some of which can be dangerous, especially for people with pre-existing health conditions. The ritual is often conducted in non-medical settings without proper emergency equipment or trained medical professionals present. This increases the risk of severe adverse reactions going untreated. Moreover, the spiritual and emotional context of the ritual can lead participants to ignore warning signs of physical distress, interpreting them as part of the cleansing process. As we've explored these potentially harmful spiritual practices, it's crucial to approach your spiritual journey with critical thinking and caution. True spiritual growth should never come at the expense of your physical or mental health. Each of these practices, while claiming to offer spiritual benefits, carries significant risks that outweigh any potential gains. Dr. Firew emphasizes the importance of balancing spiritual exploration with scientific skepticism. He suggests seeking practices that have been studied for their benefits and risks, rather than jumping into obscure or extreme techniques. This doesn't mean abandoning spirituality altogether, but rather approaching it with wisdom and discernment. If you have made it this far, let us know what you think in the comment section below. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.